Good evening and welcome to episode 10 of Your Questions, Dr. Lamba's Response. Today the questions are really interesting and they're very topical, relate to what happened today or maybe in one case a couple of days back. But let's take the latest question, the question which relates to the whole world, especially to South Asia, and it's very topical. The question has been asked from Karachi, Sayyid Fazil. He says that Imran's US speech, actually it was a UNO speech, was excellent as compared to Modi's speech. He spoke for 57 minutes while Modi spoke for 17 minutes and he nailed Modi, exposed Modi. Well, Sayyid, you are right to some extent. Imran was speaking for 57 minutes and a few seconds. Modi for 16 minutes and 57 seconds, less than 17. So let that be a matter of pleasure to you, that he wasn't as long and as verbose a speaker as Imran was. But have you noticed one thing, that Modi was giving standing ovation, Imran didn't get. Modi talked of the issues which relate to the world where there's a capital, climate change, where there's Islamic terrorism or whatever, and it didn't refer to Pakistan even once. Indirectly he did, but not directly. On the other side, Imran addressed Modi personally. He used the name of Modi at least 38 times, RSS 28 times, Hitler 26 times, and was virtually abusing Modi. This is not done. A civilized society wants civilized behavior and decent intercourse. It doesn't want abusive, indecent language, and it's not done. Whatever Modi is doing is not as a person, but as the Prime Minister of India, and he is commitment to the people in the election manifesto that he had done. Secondly, the US Assistant Secretary of State stated today that Pakistan is so concerned about the Muslims in Kashmir, which is good, but is not saying a single word against 1 million Muslims who have been put in concentration camps by China. And China, which has banned the Muslims' holy book, Quran. China, which has banned all the muftis and the scholarly people. China, which has banned the Muslim style of shaving and told them to shave off their beards, and not a single word against them. So actually what Imran was doing was just being abusive, which is not done. However, there's one point where I would appreciate Imran. He very clearly acknowledged that in conventional war, Pakistan is likely to be defeated by India, and Pakistan would not tolerate defeat. Therefore, they might be compelled to use the nuclear weapons, which is quite a possibility. There's no denying the fact. And if it is so, then why not put a halt to Modi? Now, these are two different things altogether. He has, in fact, threatened the whole world. He has threatened United Nations with annihilation of South Asia and contamination of Far East Asia, Africa, and extending up to Iran and Turkey. This sort of blackmailing tactic doesn't go. You are saying he nailed Modi. Maybe he nailed himself. He lost control on his sense of decency, sense of achievement, and then he was criticizing West. For the failures of Pakistan, he was criticizing West, saying that the West are not understood. You can criticize Christ. You can make a caricature of Christ. You can condemn Christ, but you cannot condemn Muhammad. Now, this is not done. What is false with the goose is false with the gander. You cannot have two standards. And freedom of thought, freedom of expression wants that you condemn or criticize without being indecent. That's the main thing. So whether who nailed whom, I leave to you, and I'm not interested in putting blame on anybody. As a matter of fact, Modi's speech was vigorous in service of the mankind. And do you know, he quoted a Tamil poet who lived 3,500 years back and who gave expression to globalization for the first time in the history of the universe when he said, the whole world is ours and we are of the whole world. Now, this expression of the unity of mankind was a message from Modi, and nuclear annihilation, nuclear disaster was a message from Imran. Now, you choose who nailed whom. The second question is from Rick Brennan, and coupled with that is a question from Donna Chevier. Both are from Mississauga. Rick Brennan asks about impeachment proceedings against Trump, while Donna asks about Trump talking to the Ukrainian president, asking for an inquiry into Joe Biden's son's activities. So basically, because these two things are interrelated, I'm taking them together. Look at Donna. It was a private talk between two presidents, President of Ukraine and President of USA. Ukraine president needed some $145 million for the purchase of arms. And he said, okay, we'll give you the money, but I want to know what activities has Joe Biden's son been indulging in. I want a complete report on that. So based on the information given by the Ukrainian president, they released $145 million to them. This is the crux of impeachment. Now let's take this up. A, the president would talk to the heads of 200 countries every year, sometime for 5 minutes and sometime for 5 hours. And what they talk is meant for their consumption, is not a public document. As a matter of fact, the whistleblower should have been hauled up. That raises the question, if whistleblower is to be depended, then why is USA prosecuting Snowden, WikiLeaks? Again, what is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. If Snowden is guilty of treason, so is treason and disloyalty to the president. So that allegation by itself is void. Russian president has today sent a message to President Trump, and this would be in the newspapers tomorrow or day after. But at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, POTUS received a message from Putin. And the Putin is very clear. He said, if you reveal what we talked, then it will be bad for USA. In fact, threatening USA with nuclear war. Because now Russia has the capability to fire from submarines, and their submarines are in Arctic. Alaska is even otherwise 53 kilometers from Russian border. So, whistleblower has in fact injured the reputation of USA. Now comes the major question of impeachment. This is a paper tiger, let me tell you. There have been 3 earlier impeachment proceedings, and all 3 of them failed. First was against Andrew Jackson, and Andrew Jackson was said by the skin of his teeth. He had 1 vote more than required to impeach him. Then came Nixon. After the House of Representatives had declared him guilty, he resigned, so he was not impeached. Then came Clinton, and Clinton was not impeached. You see, the process of impeachment is very convoluted process. Impeachment is the removal of the president or of the Supreme Court judges by the Congress for acts of treason or those wrongs for which ordinary courts cannot try them. Till now, earlier they were saying that he is a traitor and he had asked for Russian collaboration. Mueller report rejected that allegation. And now this starts. I wrote an article today, The Process of Immigration. You can see it on the link on my Facebook. The process would be, there are 6 committees of the House of Representatives. Any one of that committee can draft the articles of impeachment. And then those articles of impeachment are sent to the Judiciary Committee. The Judiciary Committee studies it, and then in case of their valid grounds, they start the impeachment proceedings. Impeachment is just like a suit, a suit filed by one party. Here the requesting party is the Judiciary Committee. Now suppose the House of Representatives passes, then he is guilty and the matter goes to Senate. But there's a caveat. To pass the resolution of impeachment, there must be 66% votes in favor of that. Already, there are 8 Democrats who have said they are not in favor of the resolution. And the Republicans most probably would not be joining them. So by no stretch of imagination, Pelosi can have 66% of the votes in favor of the resolution. For the sake of argument, let's admit that they get 66%. Then it goes to the Senate. The Senate has its own procedure. Senate is, when it goes to Senate, it's like a court sitting. Instead of the Vice President presiding, it is the Chief Justice of USA who presides over. The House Judiciary Committee acts as a prosecutor, and the Department of Justice or the lawyers of the President act as defendants. And the Senate members, 100 of them, act as jury. Chief Justice has no role to play except to oversee the discussions, charges, defense, counter charges, and all that. So that there is a semblance, appearance of judicial system. So that the sense of judicial activism is seen. So after that, the jury decides. Now again, in the jury, you need 66% votes. Normally in the courts, jury needs 100% of the votes, in some cases 90%, but here they take 66%. Now look at the arithmetic. There are 53 senators who are Republican, so they don't have even 50%. It's quite possible that 3 Republicans may side with the Democrats. They have always been shifting loyalties. But that's also possible that some Democrats might shift to the Republicans. Anyway, let's admit for the sake of argument that these 3, like Susan Collins and others, shift their allegiance and they vote in favor of impeachment. Even then, it will be 50-50. And by 50-50, the president cannot be impeached. As a matter of fact, the whole process of impeachment is wrong. USA is entering the election year in November. If president is really guilty, then the elections are the best way to remove him. These impeachment proceedings will continue for about 6-7 months. The Mueller investigation carried on for more than 2 years, and more than $2.3 billion was spent on that. Why are we wasting money? On the one side, we say, conserve, we economize, and then we waste money. So the whole sense the whole step of impeachment is a non-starter. It has only the political implications because the Democrats in the election would say, look here, he's being impeached. Not that he has been impeached, but he is being impeached. And that would create an issue. Well, Rick, you have been a journalist, so you know it better, but I appreciate your question. And the last question is from Surjit Sundaraj, Vellore, India. How do you impart good education? Well, Surjit, the question of imparting good education has a major ingredient. What is good education? Is teaching 3 hours a good education? Is teaching science, arithmetic, political science, economics good education? Is biology good education? No. PISA at the moment is the most important acknowledged innovative system, and even that is wrong. I have been writing on this issue for a long time, and just about 3 months back, PISA had seen my interview with World Economic Forum, and now they have said that starting 2021, their system would change. And change to what? What education should really be like. Now, what is education? Education is to draw out and develop the capabilities of the child. It's not to impose burden. It's not to feed some rubbish, which may be correct, may not be correct. So from 2021, PISA system would be not economics, not mathematics, not physics, not chemistry. They would be there. But the emphasis would be on flexibility in thinking and habits of creativity as being inquisitive and persistent. They will also be developing a way of testing students' digital learning, which should be ready by 2024 assessment. Now the whole thing has changed. They are standing flexibility in thinking and creativity, inquisitiveness. The education system at present is not inquisitive. They don't encourage you to ask questions. They say, well, I'm telling you, so it's correct. It's written in the book, so it's correct. So the purpose of the education should be the joy of learning, not the joy or the burden of learning. Collectively, this whole system would be against a dominant standard-based reform agenda. Till now, the system was STEM education, science, technology, English, and mathematics. They were the 4 basics of the education, and they were being taught. Now it is creativity, flexibility in thinking, communication, and digital skills. So that is important. And how to do it? The old system of the Greek was ideal, where teaching was not a lecture or taking notes. It was a conversation, the same as it happened in India in the Gurukuls. The teacher would take the students, teach them by practice or in conversation. And that is why those people had a more creative mind. What has happened is that back to basics in mathematics and languages in the late 80s and 90s destroyed the education system. We need better policies for better lives. And that's why you have to re-educate yourself with a recent insight so that you can get the best out of the children. Basically, it should be introduction, it should be suggestion, it should be encouragement rather than imposition. If that is done, students will be really educated. Education doesn't mean literacy. Let's be very clear. Education means developing your faculties. And you don't develop the faculties by dictation. You do it by example, by percept. And that's the way it should be imparted. So these are the questions for today's episode. We meet on Tuesday again for the same question. For new questions that you will send by Monday afternoon. Thank you.